So our next poet is Rick Mullin. Rick Mullin is a poet, painter, and journalist whose poetry has appeared in numerous journals and anthologies, including American Arts Quarterly, the Raintown Review, Unsplendid, Measure, The Flea, and Epiphany. His epic poem, Soutine, on the life of the painter Soutine, was published earlier this year by Dos Montes Press in Loveland, Ohio. His book-length poem, Hunky, was published by Stephen Towers, Dublin, Ireland in 2010. And his chapbook, Aquinas Flinched, was published by the Modern Metrics imprint of Exit Books, New York City in 2008. Another chapbook of his work, The Stones Jones Canzones, is that right? Is forthcoming from Finishing Line Press. So please help me welcome Rick Mullin.
Thanks, Robert. Thanks for having me. I'm going to read two pieces tonight. One from my book Soutine, which Robert mentioned. Soutine is a book-length poem. It's a verse biography of the painter Soutine. It's written in terza rima, which is the form Dante used in the Divine Comedy. And it's interspersed with memoir. Not a lot of people know Soutine, despite the fact that he's a very good painter. So I'm going to read one of the memoir bits. Doesn't need as much background. I'll tell you this, the memoir has to do with my discovery of Soutine, my discovery of painting, teaching myself to paint, and interacting with painters in this region. Interesting, at least to me, is that one of them, Andrei Tamarchenko, ran a school in this room, in the room next door. This used to be the Nandi Gallery. It was a school for kids during the day, adults at night. Andrei and his friends, including me, would paint here. It's a beautiful art experience here. I'm glad to see that it's still an art experience. So I'm going to read one of the memoir bits. At this point, I've lost a job, gotten a new job. In the meantime, taught myself to paint, and one of the adventures in doing that was going to the Metropolitan Museum of Art after like 3 weeks of working in my attic and making a copy of a Pizarro, for which I should probably still be in jail. Also, I referenced my first discovery of a Soutine, which is a landscape at the MoMA, which I'm sure is in the attic now since the renovation. This is Book 2, Chapter 4. The chapter is called La Cité Vulgaire in Paris, but the first part, Part 1, takes place much closer to New York City. 888 7th Avenue, New York. The famous opera man, the semi-homeless fixture, lifts his can and sets to work another day, delivering his hopeless arias. Removed across the avenue by uniforms at Carnegie Hall, the heartless monsters, he resumes his ballyhoo and de profundis on a sidewalk square on 57th, just below the studio of Ernest Critchlow on the second floor of the Art Students League of New York. Critchlow taught an open session there on Thursday nights in '93. By luck, I'd landed at an office right across the street, above the Brooklyn Diner. What the fuck, I thought, the League. What better way to meet the likes of Critchlow, Romare Bearden's partner at the Cinque Gallery? And what could beat 3-hour sessions with the nude Nirvana every Thursday night? I cut across the traffic, snarled on 57th on a blood quest, with a bag of oil tubes tossed and jostling on my back. It was a chance to fail, on par with painting in that most auspicious gallery uptown. My pants were caked with color. On the night I met a realist from the Harlem Renaissance. Another wild man, Critchlow laughed. He'd vet my canvas, shake his head and say, "All right, keep moving with the figure while it's wet." When he retired, I switched to Wednesday night, Harari's class upstairs, Hananiah. He was full of love. In Europe, at the height of things, at home, a socialist pariah, the blacklist, and the whole shebang, this gentleman was in his 80s, an American, who figured in the school of Paris. Judgmental? He was not, but all encouragement. "I love this color," he would say, and bend to see it closer in the battlement of oil across my slab. "Spare no expense. Your métier's impasto." There I spent my Wednesday nights, an intense experience. The weary model, having posed all day, conveyed a softness. I would often sense her weight and form through color, in the way that greens and violets would develop in the pasty flesh tone I'd naively splay across my gessoed canvas. I begin to understand what Critchlow told me. Work it wet and keep up with the drama in the pose. Harari smiled. "I see a Turk, an odalisque. Matisse would see the same." The man was going blind. Sometimes he'd lurk behind a student quietly, then, "What's your name? You're Sally, right?" "Robert." "Yes, of course." But he could see the paintings. When he came to mine, I'd watch his eyes. There is a source of clarity in art and in the process of creating, and Harari had a vast resource of images within. He could assess a canvas with an acumen and skill that cut through cataracts. "I'll tell you this, you're learning how to work with white. It's still the toughest color on my palette." "Ah, that's right, it's not a color." He would kill with his derisive jabs at dilettante opinions. I looked through catalogs and found examples of his early work. His avant-garde Parisian pictures brought to mind Georges Braque. I came across a painting titled Soutine's Studio. Soutine. Remind me where I'd heard that name. In fact, the wild landscape that unsettled me at MoMA was the start of something huge. Beguiled, I studied Soutine on the train, at home, at work. It bordered on obsession. So I asked about it. "That one? My, oh my, it brings back memories. Did you not know I took his studio in Cannes?" He left a week or two before I got there, though. We never met. I have to say, I loved Harari all the more for this. "Where's yours?" He'd lean into my painting. "It's improved. Come back next week and give it 3 more hours." And in the morning, there'd be Opera Man. And I'd think, you and me, pal, amateurs. Right. I'm going to read one more poem.